Good evening. How's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday night, 11:14 a.m. or p.m. Excuse me. June 24th, 2025 is the date here. Latest activity shows a 2.9 earthquake in Northern California. Still ramping up here across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Before we get into the current activity, I do want to talk about comparison. Right, from this year so far, earthquake activity counts 2.5 and above compared to this time last year. I see a lot of false information being produced out there on social media. We got to be very careful what we read and what we believe out there on social media these days. We're living in the age of misinformation. I want to show you guys here. From the first of 2025, January 1st, 2025, up to today's date, we've had 11,916 earthquakes, which is a lot, but this includes all 2.5 and above. That's quite a bit. So how does that relate to this time last year? Well, that would put us well below the earthquake sequences that we've seen this time last year. In fact, the total number is 536 earthquakes less this year compared to last year. And technically speaking, that's a good amount of earthquake activity. So we are nowhere near anything compared to last year. Right, far as earthquake activity goes. A lot more earthquake activity last year in terms of the multitude of counts. What is different is the magnitudes. This time last year, we had 3 7-pointers. So far this year, we've had 5 7-pointers. Now, that may seem like a lot, but on average, I want to show you guys this map again. This is the average number of earthquakes occurring across the planet on any given year. The 7-pointers caught up last year quite a bit. But we should see 15 7.0 to 7.9 earthquakes, at least one 8-pointer. We have not seen an 8-pointer since 2021. And we've only had 5 7-pointers. It's already halfway through the year, so we are below average. We're above the number of 7-pointers compared to last year, but last year seen over 500 earthquakes more of magnitude 2.5 at this time period from January 1st to today's date. So, just wanted to clarify that a little bit because I see every weather page and sports page out there stating that the end is near. Trust me, it's not near. There's not more earthquake activity occurring this year. We're just hearing about it, right? Every sports station, every news station, clicks and views. That's all it's about. They're not covering sports. They're covering earthquakes. They're not covering weather. They're covering earthquake activity. All right. So I figured I would spit that out there because, again, so much misinformation going on around there, folks. It's getting scary with a lot of misinformation. Pacific Northwest, still got a little bit of earthquake activity around Mount St. Helens. Nothing big going on. One crustal earthquake up here, very shallow crustal quake along the western coast of Washington, 2.0. Let's see what we got here for Cascadia tremor activity. See if anything's stirring up there across Washington. Nothing in Washington. Most of the activity, 169 epicenters up north. But it looks like a pretty decent cluster there across the southern end of the Cascadia once again. Right around this area. No resulting earthquakes, but I guarantee you that strain is building up for sure. And of course, we've got some activity down here across Northern California off the coast in the last hour. That is going to be this earthquake right here. Mendocino Station 2311. That would match this time period right here at 2311, which is going to be 0611. Decent signature. I do like that one. It looks very close to the seismograph station there. Mendocino sits right around this area. Bay Area pretty quiet. One earthquake on the San Andreas Fault this morning. Nothing new to report there across the Bay Area. Got a couple earthquakes there along the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault. Parkfield segment, quiet. Southern California, earlier this morning, one earthquake shaking things up out there around the Sherman Oaks area. That is a 2.7 earthquake. That earthquake was felt by quite a few folks. Of course, it is a highly populated area, and it's going to definitely rattle some nerves out there. Sherman Oaks, obviously, it looks to be the epicenter region. Off of the, let's see which fault system. It's an unnamed fault in North Hollywood. That's been active for a little bit. In the last couple months or so, last few months, I should say, it's been quite active across the eastern edge here. There's many fault systems out there across Southern California, some that are probably not discovered. That's why they call this an unnamed fault. Actually, it used to be called potential unnamed fault. Now it's just called unnamed possible fault there in North Hollywood. Now, not a whole lot of information on that, but it's been quite active. But one thing I've noticed here in Southern California is we're getting a lot of activity across these fault systems that have been very quiet for centuries, maybe even thousands of years. That may be a bad sign for the plate boundary. One earthquake activity out there around the Segundo region. That is offshore, it looks like. Unsure on what fault system that's occurring on. Again, we're getting all these little earthquakes in areas that, have never really seen earthquake activity in a while. The plate boundary here, the San Andreas Fault, quiet for now as far as large activity goes. Really nothing happening on it. Most of the activity, aside from that 2.7 there along the San Jacinto Fault Zone. That's where all the microquake activity is occurring, but that's on any given day. Continue to keep an eye there on Southern California. Yellowstone National Park up there, pretty quiet, not a whole lot going on. Same for the Sawtooth Fault System. We'll double check Yellowstone here real quick. That is not the current data. I was just looking at some a big-time swarm back in January 2010. We've seen 1,000 earthquakes there at Yellowstone National Park in a couple days. We are not seeing anything like that right now. But I was looking at some history. Today's events, not a whole lot. A little different story, I would say. Some small earthquake activity here in the last few hours, but those are generally small microquakes and below the 2.0 threshold. They're not even actually reporting these newer quakes right now. They'll get to them tomorrow. Texas oil fields still rocking and rolling out there in the liquid gold fields. Nothing new. Same south of San Antonio. The new Madrid seismic zone, pretty quiet. One earthquake north here of the OKC area. Believe this is some oil fields up here as well. There we go. All over the place. Puerto Rico Trench here has been an area of interest for sure in the last 24, 48 hours. We're talking, see what we got here, at least in the last week. The majority of these quakes, though, in the last couple days. 90 earthquakes of various magnitudes, including a 5.7 earthquake. The concerning deal here is that we've seen some large 7-pointers, even 8-pointers out here historically. It's been quite a while since we've had a large earthquake out here, and this could be leading to something bigger. The way this earthquake swarm is behaving here around the Puerto Rico Trench. Now, it's been migrating a little bit here to the east, and even some newer activity well down south here, just off the coast there, Trinidad and the Tobago area. That means that this whole Caribbean plate is underneath a whole bunch of strain. And we're getting the results up here across the Puerto Rico Trench. Got to watch that because this area can see some big earthquakes. And again, it's been a little while since we've seen anything of major nature out there. Major activity. So watching that closely. I did post here on my Facebook page a video I put out a few years ago about the mega quake potential out here along the Puerto Rico Trench. So go check that out. It's also here on my channel. You can find that. In fact, if you were to search the YouTube browser search bar and type in Puerto Rico mega quake, I think I'm the first video. So go check that out. I do a little bit more in-depth study and explanation as to why I think a megaquake can occur on that. Big Island of Hawaii, couple earthquakes out here. The Kilauea volcano site is working. Appreciate Timothy there getting a hold of the scientists in charge out there across the HVO. Looks like, I guess, I don't know, maybe I was the only one having the issues because it was limited to me. Maybe a couple other people, but I could not access that for whatever reason. No matter if I access this data on my phone, on the computer here, and it wasn't me. No matter what browser I used, it would not let me access that. What's weird, though, what's really weird is I had Missy Mimi's, even on the same network here, access this site on her phone, and it allowed her to. So why me? Why the Earthmaster? Hopefully I'm not trying to get a blackout curtain out here on me. I definitely don't want that. I try to stick to the facts out here and show the data as is. Anyway, earthquake activity, deformation data out here continues to rise. They're projecting here. If you look on the charts, they're forecasting a prediction window of July 28th or June 28th to July 4th for the next eruption here, number 27. It's been a continual cycle here of eruptions. I don't see anything changing out here. This is on track to produce number 27 here in a number of days. Although I don't think it's going to extend all the way out to July 4th. That's way longer than any observed patterns out here in the past. But for now, we do have a few days before that kicks back up. The rest of the globe out here watching a decent swarm here around the Andaman Sea. No main earthquake associated with this swarm. That tells me right there that we could be looking at some larger activity here near term along this area. That's subduction zone down south here off the coast of Sumatra. This is pretty much I don't think this is a subduction zone, more of a transform boundary. But we got a decent swarm of activity. The largest so far in the cycle is a looks like a 5.4 earlier this evening. So watch that. A lot of pressurization going on here, specifically in this area. We've had bunches swarming up here along the Japan area, Taiwan, or close to Taiwan. That big 6-pointer there in the Philippines recently. 5.5 in the Solomon Islands. A whole bunch of activity putting westward migrational pressure in this general area right here. So that's a region to watch here. I know it's a broad area, but it's super dynamic, and there's so much potential out here for large earthquake activity. And similar to the Andaman Sea swarm, there was no main quake over here, no main quake over along the Kuril-Kamchatka. The only main quake out here was that 6-pointer there in the Philippines, and that's an odd quake. That is back prior to the subduction zone for that 6.2, and in an area that has not seen historically that large of an earthquake. In fact, nothing above 4.5 in that area since 1900. So that is a rather rare, unusual earthquake. Now, whether that's pointing to something big happening along the Philippine Trench has yet to be seen. For New Zealand, more recent 3-pointer, looks like 3.6 down there in that area once again. That's been swarming like crazy here in the last couple weeks with some larger earthquake activity as well. South here of the Alpine Fault, that's overdue for some big earthquake activity, so watch that. The Hikurangi subduction zone, quiet for now. Back up north here, still getting some swarming here along the southern end of the Nankai Trough. Bunch of 3s and some 4s in there. That's been a hot spot of swarming here with no big earthquake activity yet. Some newer movement there along the Japan Trench as well. We got to watch that because there's some mega quake potential there along the Nankai Trough. Alaska quiet for now. Middle America Trench quite active. Some newer quake activity out there. There's a lot of squeezing going on here across the Caribbean plate. That is an area that gets squeezed quite often there from the South American plate moving north. And, of course, we got the North American plate here kind of moving off to the west, but there's still some subductions going on there across the Puerto Rico Trench. So we do have to watch that. It's a considerable amount of swarming going on there. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. The Mediterranean, twos, very common. Some newer activity up north here into Afghanistan and in the China region, it looks like. Definitely keep an eye here on this area of the globe. Like I said, I really think this area right here should be on watch here for some bigger earthquake activity. Let's see what we got here for space weather. Way down into the B flare category. Hello, B 5.8. I really don't expect anything for as far as solar flare activity goes. It should continue to remain quiet. We do have this area back here on the northeastern quadrant of the sun. Really not all that impressed with it. There's a little bit of magnetic complexity here, but I'm not really expecting much from that area. Look at that sunspot down here, just clear cut, degrading. We do have this region here starting to grow a little bit, but I don't think it's going to turn into too much here. This was earlier, 4120. If you look now, it's a little bit more advanced with a little bit more deeper, darker colors, indicating some growth within that sunspot. That's 4120. Where's our big time solar storm expected tonight? Has it arrived? Well, it's possible we could be looking at a little bit earlier tomorrow morning here for the Wednesday morning, between 09 and 1200 UTC time. And by the way, it's 0625, so maybe in about 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours, we should see potentially things kick up there for the auroras. That is where they're forecasting a G2 class storm there. KP index up around 6. That is the forecast here over the next couple days and nights. Let's check out the real-time solar wind stream here. Real-time solar wind. See what we're looking at here for the BZ component. I thought I clicked on it. There we go. Well, that's good news here. If you want some auroras, we're way south here. I don't see any sign of the high-speed solar wind stream. In fact, we're right around 425 kms here for the speed. I don't see the arrival of that yet. So with this being open here, the BZ component, they're pointing south. That could, once that high-speed solar wind stream comes in, that could really ramp up the auroras up there across the polar region. So watch for that. Storm Prediction Center, what do we got here for Tuesday night? A little bit of noise out there, it looks like, around Wyoming, Nebraska, South Dakota, even eastern Colorado here. Got still 2% chance for some tornado wind and a little bit of hail threat out there for the evening. Let's go ahead and check out the weather radar, see what's going on. Nothing going on out here across the West Coast, and that will probably be that way until November, unfortunately. So, yeah, a lot of storms going on out here across Nebraska. Still got the severe weather potential. A little bit up here in Wyoming as well. A little bit of noise out there happening. Of course, all that coming in here from the southwest. A lot of monsoonal moisture funneling out there, making New Mexico green. I'm sure it's absolutely beautiful out there right now with the greenery. Let's see what else we got here. Just a real quick glance, recap at the earthquakes. Nothing new aside from a 1.5 down here across the Owens Valley fault system, it looks like, up in the Sierra. Keep an eye on things, folks. Southern California really has not adjusted much following all this large-scale adjustment across the Pacific Plate. Do expect it to move here. I mean, it really hasn't. I mean, the only notable earthquake, if you want to call it notable, is that 2.7 here in Los Angeles area earlier. I think that's the largest earthquake here in the last week. Yeah, it is. Last 30 days here, largest earthquake goes to a 3.3 off the coast there, Manhattan Beach area. That's Let's see, that's associated with the Redondo Fault, I believe. Hello. The Redondo Canyon Fault. Yeah, so a lot of areas out here that have not been historically active. Well, lately active is definitely showing some uptick here. Don't forget the plate boundary, folks. I mean, it's just, I feel like we're getting closer. I really do. So much time has passed. And there's a lot going on out here in the world. You know, it makes sense here for some large, devastating earthquakes to strike. I just had an ant on me, and I'm not for sure where he came from. Probably a searcher ant is what I'm guessing here, looking for some sugar, some sweet stuff, but yeah, it's weird. All right, anyway, I think that's the first time here in many years that I've had an ant crawling on me. What do we got going on up here at Mount Hood? A couple earthquakes from yesterday. I do want to double check that real quick, see what we got. We'll go over to the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, see what we have here for volcano seismicity, Mount Hood. Yeah, a couple earthquakes there at the southern end of Mount Hood. Let's see what we got here. A lot of noise happening there on the top of Palmer Lift, so that's really not a good station to use. Some noise out there as well, so the earthquakes, that was from yesterday, so that's going to show up here. A lot of noise. I don't know what those are. It could be anything, but it's not. It's definitely not volcanic. Just wish there was a decent station out here without all the noise. Yeah, there we go. That's a good one. The earthquake activity, though, is highly questionable. I don't even see it out there, so it's just very small earthquakes. It could be these little ones here from yesterday, but yeah, that's not a whole lot going on out there, I would say, as far as volcanic activity. All right, folks, seismograph stations out there, pretty quiet out there for now. I'm going to keep the normal stations out here. I do want to include the Puerto Rico station down here. So this is San Juan, Puerto Rico. I have it up here because of the earthquake swarm and the potential of some large earthquake activity out there. So we can watch that. Up top is the Mendocino, Northern California station. Yellowstone National Park, Japan. New Zealand there, split between North and South Island. Taiwan, Anza, that's down there in Southern California. And the San Juan Bautista area of California. So some primary stations out there watching the earthquake activity happening out here. So have a wonderful evening, folks. I think I'm going to call it a night. We'll see you guys out here tomorrow morning for the Wednesday morning update. Take care and have a good night.